times when I just wish I could have closed my ears, closed my eyes, put my head under the covers, and wish that it was just all a bad dream.
I'll never be able to live again in the illusion of safety. I live in a universe so vast, I don't even have a clue what's out there. And somehow it's connecting with me, making contact with me.
I know something very powerful, very meaningful, very important has happened, not only for these people, but for the world we live in.
This is about how people have been touched by an alien, and it isn't an easy story. It's not like touched by an angel by any means.
Yeah, those TV shows always end up with a happy ending. And this doesn't have an ending. This is open-ended, and it's very uncomfortable.
Welcome to Heathrow Airport, London. We thank you for flying with us.
Dawn, London, England.
We ask you to stay seated until the plane has come to...
How did I find myself here?
...turned off the seatbelt sign.
I've been following this woman around. She claims she's been abducted by aliens. I know she's not the only one. Hundreds of thousands of people all over the world claim similar experiences. I invited my friend Andy along to shoot. He hoped to be the first person to catch the aliens on film. Andy, you should probably be shooting this. Here. But me, I never even thought about aliens. I certainly didn't believe in them. It all started a few years ago. John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist and leading researcher in alien abduction, invited me to a dinner where a few of these so-called abductees were speaking. I was skeptical, but I'm not one to turn down a free meal. This woman was one of the presenters. Her story moved me. I didn't think I could figure out the origin of these bizarre stories, nor did I think I could prove or disprove the existence of aliens. Rather, I was driven to explore the human drama. Who are these people? What has happened to them? And why does this distinguished Harvard professor believe them?
Born in Florida, raised there for 18 years. I'm a typically American dysfunctional childhood, I think.
We were poor, and my mother was married and divorced several times.
Like most people in Florida, I voted to the right. I was conservative, listened to Rush Limbaugh, all that stuff. And then the experiences sort of unleashed themselves in full force, and I started changing on a daily basis. From one day to the next, I just was not the person that I had been the day before. I'll tell you about an experience that I don't think I have told you, that I don't tell many people, because this, I think, is actually my first experience.
It happened one night when I was around 26 years old.
It was at 11 o'clock. I was going to bed earlier than what I wanted to be going to bed. And as I was going down to sleep, I thought, there's a blue light coming through the blinds, and I thought, I wonder what that is. And I just went to sleep immediately. I woke to my body vibrating as if I'd stuck it in an outlet. It happened about 4 different times in the morning on half-hour intervals. I was being like what felt like electrocuted practically. And the last one finally stopped, and I got up and I tried to shake it off, and I just knew something really wrong, something just not right had happened to me. 6 months into my experiences that included all sorts of really weird things, channeling, out-of-body experiences, just was going berserk. What in the hell is happening to me? And I just sort of sent this cry out to the universe, to whomever is responsible for this, whatever is going on, am I having a psychotic break? Is this a hallucination? Please, universe, if this is happening, you need to give me really physical, really tangible proof so that I can at least accept that it's happening and move on with my life. Be careful what you ask for.
What is this about? I want to get that connection back. I want to get back to those people. My connection with the extraterrestrials, it's deeper than any spiritual connection I've ever had with God. I want to have that connection again, and I want to do anything I can to get there. You know, and if it takes leaving home, leaving my marriage, leaving my wife, that's what I want to do. At least that's what I believed when I was going through the experience.
Peter was totally unlike any other man I'd ever been with. And I really liked him because of his strong connection with his family. I felt that he was really grounded. He took his work really seriously.
I was in love with her. I'm still in love with her, but it was as if she opened my heart, I think, for the first time. I mean, I'd been with many women, but my heart was never open like it was with Jamie. And I knew that I could go on this adventure of life with her. So between 1986 and 1990, my wife and I lived in the British Virgin Islands, managing a hotel. And while we were down there, approximately 1988, I woke up one night in the middle of the night and got up to walk across the living room to go to the bathroom, which, you know, wasn't nothing unusual. And I found myself stopping and looking at this being that was standing in my living room and saying, stop this, I hate this, get away from me. And the next thing I know, I found myself lying down on the couch and a white light hitting me in the forehead and feeling paralysis. And waking up the next morning and being very afraid and very freaked out and somewhat traumatized, to use that word, and then telling Jamie.
He was really upset. And actually, as I recall, that was the time that I thought you were crying. I mean, I felt like he was visibly shaken enough that there were tears in his eyes, and I had never seen him like that before.
So I'm in bed, sleeping, and I get this tickle on the back of my head that feels deliberate, but I'm thinking somehow I must have just gotten myself up against the headboard too far. Started to go back to sleep, and again, tickle on the back of my head, like a little finger. That was all it took. And I just kind of froze, and I think I stopped breathing for a minute, and I got really panicked, and then boom, blackout. Wake up again. 2 minutes later, arms now down to my side, body paralyzed with this very physical electrical feeling running up and down it. Not just paralyzed, can't move. Electricity running through my body. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Totally scared, going, what in the hell is going on now? I can't open my eyes, and I feel a footstep on the end of the bed. I have big down comforters, it's squishy. What in the hell could be on the end of the bed? Is it a cow? I mean, like, the brain just goes through these really weird things. It's not a cow, it's, you know, is it a dog? Is it a cat? No, I don't have a dog. I don't have a cat. Is it a baby? I don't have a baby. Is it a mouse? No, it's too heavy for a mouse. You know, I'm going through all the physical things what could be on my bed? And as my brain is just going 90 miles an hour, running through the Rolodex of possibilities that are all coming up, not that. And then all of a sudden there was contact. And there was a sort of a wave of calm that followed it. And I stopped breathing so hard. And it says, now you can open your eyes. And I almost wanted to pass out again. Here I am, my eyes finally open, and I can peripherally see my room around me in the ambient light. I always had light on in the house. I'm looking at this thing, and the first thing that I can get to even come to my mind is, Jesus Christ, you look like a fucking bug. Having had that experience and having it just mark me so, having it brand me like that, my life will never be the same. My life will never be the same.
after that initial experience, for the next several nights, I remember just being kind of freaked out and like, what was that? That was the strangest experience I ever had. Like, what was that about? And just kind of going about, our daily lives, going back to managing the hotel. And I think it was a few weeks later, it might have been 2 or 3 weeks later. It didn't seem like a long period of time, but within a few weeks' time, I remember lying in bed again and waking up, being startled, and feeling something at the side of the bed, and being totally terrified and trying to wake Jamie up, and Jamie couldn't wake up, and feeling some kind of energy go into my lower spine, and it felt like it was just sucking the life out of me. And then passing out again and waking up in the morning, waking up with marks behind my ears, behind my ear, and again being very shaken emotionally about what my experience was the night before.
I had enrolled in graduate school back here in Boston, and Peter was at acupuncture school. So again, we had come back here to plan a way to work together. I mean, everything was in service of our looking at our lives vocationally together.
Sammy, you're all coordinated.
I know.
It was probably in the middle of my second year of 3-year training at the New England School of Acupuncture. One of my classmates was telling the story of how he was working at Cambridge City Hospital as an administrative assistant, and there was this psychiatrist there who was working with people who thought they'd been abducted by aliens.
I think it's a combination of adventurousness. I'm always looking for excitement, adventure, and a certain naivete. In other words, I don't always see the minefields.
I think he is intelligent, highly intelligent. I think he's very gifted. He writes very well. Won a Pulitzer Prize for writing a very good book. You can't be chopped liver and get to be a professor of psychiatry at Harvard. You have to be very good. And he has, I think, jeopardized his reputation among a lot of serious-minded people for behaving the way he has.
Carl Sagan says gratuitously, on the basis of nothing, this is hallucinations, and even wrote an article on that. He didn't do any work. I mean, what does he know about hallucinations anyway, In
1989, a psychologist asked me if I wanted to meet Bud Hopkins, and I said, well, who's he? And she said, well, he's an artist in New York City who works with people who have had the experience of being abducted by aliens. I said, come on, give me a break. You believe this? He told me about people from all over the country who didn't know each other, who were reporting virtually the same story. I mean, I'm a clinical psychiatrist, so I work with data. Your data is the people you're working with. That data operated like sulfuric acid to my worldview. I mean, it just didn't compute at all. I mean, my smart-ass mind couldn't do anything with that. Then he asked me if I wanted to see them myself in Boston, as part of my practice. And I don't know how much I hesitated about that. I mean, I don't remember. I think I was agreed to it pretty readily, but I sort of knew I was embarking on something. And then they began to come.
It was pouring rain that day. It was just really pouring. Anyway, we went into John's office, and I remember specifically, we go into this regular hospital, and we introduced ourselves to John, took some basic information about us. He turned to Peter and said, so do you want to tell me what happened? I can remember John going, just lean back, just like that. So Peter leaned back, and John asked him one question. Something like, why don't you tell me what happened to you, Peter? And the next thing I know, Peter closes his eyes and just starts crying.
And I had this well of emotions come boiling out of me. And this was I had gone there just out of curiosity, and I was hoping John would tell me, oh, these are just, dreams, nightmares. I in my wildest dreams, I never thought that I would walk in there and walk out of there thinking, oh my God, I have to possibly think that I've had contact with aliens.
I learned about Karen around the early August of 1996. She wrote a letter to me. She said, not only are we not alone, but we're really not alone. And I like that. Karen's life was, and where she would go, was regulated by what she calls pops. And she would get a pop, which would mean suddenly she would decide to leave wherever she was and go somewhere else. It's kind of a mixture of impulsivity and intuitiveness.
And within a month or two, I was in Boston, and then that's when my relationship with John began. Pretty quickly got into working with the experiences, and all of my sessions, probably almost without fail, were really, really intense.
She has a remarkable capacity to look at herself, to face head-on her experiences, her emotions, and move through them, if you help her.
And he asked me, when was the first time that you made contact with these beings? And my brain went all the way back to when I was this little kid. I think I was about 2.5 years old. My mom had presented me with a new bubblegum machine, and I loved it. I was playing by a dry creek bed that was just next to the house, all by myself with a bubblegum machine. And there was a little being that was sticking out from behind the tree with really large black eyes that wanted to ask me a question, would I be willing to go with him? I said, sure. And we got into this sort of egg-shaped thing, and I looked up to see this other being coming in with a little boy, and he was leading by the hand. And the little boy seemed to be older than I was by a couple of years. And the being with the little boy walked him up to just in front of me. And I was asked if I would be willing to share my bubblegum machine with him. And I said, sure. And I handed it over. And I think that we were being introduced for the first time. I don't remember too much more after that we were separated. And when the egg opened again, I was back in by the creek bed. The very next thing I remembered was, as if there had been no cut in the frame, was all of a sudden I was mid-stride running in toward the house. And I couldn't find my bubblegum machine.
So I went back out and we looked for it, and we just couldn't find it anywhere around on the edge of the creek or whatever. I was kind of clueless. All I knew is it was really gone.
The very first regression session where I laid on the table or laid on the bed, and John counted me back from 10 to 1 and asked me to do some deep breathing relaxation, and then asked me to go into the memories again and see what else was there.
Journey into the unknown. Let's see where it goes.
I'm sitting in my bed, and the beings are outside. It's outside my window. They're standing there, they're watching me. It's time for me to go. Light comes down, surrounds us, and we just float up.
Mm-hmm. Where are you?
No, I'm in the ship.
You're in the ship.
Mm-hmm. And John, I have this feeling that I'm avoiding something that's really on the surface. And my mind is racing around all these things.
Okay, so...
And that there's something else that needs to come out.
Okay, so just let it be. Don't try to figure it out. Just let your body sink. Let the breathing take over. Just notice go back into your feelings, into your emotions.
Okay, I'm getting closer to
your
fear.
sensations. Okay, let the fear, just let it be there. Let it come. That's it.
You can't do this to me. I want to say no, you can't do this to me.
Let it come. Give it voice.
Just can't do this to me anymore.
That's it.
Stop it!
That's it.
I'm so tired of it. Just do this anytime you want. Oh.
That's it. What's happening?
They're taking me. They're taking my semen.
Where are you?
I'm laying on a table. They have control over me. I'm just laying here. They're taking me. They're taking. They have control over my genitals. They have control over me. They have a cup over me. They're just taking me. They're just.
Let the feelings come. That's it. What's the emotion that went with that experience? What are the emotions that went with that? Give it voice. That's it.
Fuck you.
That's it.
Just fuck you.
That's it.
They're just happy now. They just got what they wanted.
Here I am studying psychology, so I'm thinking about early childhood development, I'm thinking about childhood trauma, I'm thinking about birth trauma.
I begged John and, my therapist, tell me there was something, tell me there's a reason for me to have these experiences. Tell me I was abused as a kid. Tell me, there's a reason here for me to create all this fantasy.
I'd come home and I'd say, Peter, you know what I just realized? Your mother's from England. And he'd say yes, and I'd say, but you know what? She has a green card, right? And he'd say yes, and I said, so she's an alien, right?
John was really upfront. You don't have to do this. I'm here if you want to explore this. I'll work with you through this. And it was at that place where I just knew I had to do it to put my own demons to rest.
I exhausted the psychological, then I went to the spiritual, and then I was into, it's really a manifestation of the divine. You really, really the aliens maybe you have to say that they're alien, but maybe it's really God, so there was a lot of different theories. I tried everything. But most of them were to comfort me,
By the time I published a book in 1994, I'd seen, I don't know how many, between 50 and 100 cases, and felt on pretty solid ground that this was not going to give way to some sort of conventional explanation. I was just behaving like clinicians should behave, I think. Here's what I'm finding, recording the cases, writing them up, saying what they said, and what, if this is true, what it implies, and that, I was a bit surprised, actually, by the storm that the first book created.
Is alien abduction real?
In the crossfire, Harvard psychiatry professor Dr. John Mack, author of Abductions.
This Harvard psychiatrist is a believer.
I was asked by the dean of the Harvard Medical School to be chair of an ad hoc committee to look into John's activities.
Next, people who believe they've had encounters with aliens and a psychiatrist.
All of the articles and all the publicity that he was getting identified him as a professor at the Harvard Medical School and implied that the Harvard Medical School was somehow sponsoring what he was doing. And the dean wanted to know, what is he doing? And does it fit within the broad framework of what a Harvard Medical School faculty person should do?
I sensed that I ought to try to get ahead of the curve on the high exposure that I had, but I was too late. They were putting together a 3-person committee to look into the work and see if I had maintained the standards of the Harvard Medical School, because questions had been raised, and that's the way it was put. If I just said that this was a new psychiatric syndrome that we hadn't found the cause of it, it would have been okay.
You know, there is an establishment at Harvard. We know the boundaries. Theology is okay, but extraterrestrials, no. Angels, yes. Extraterrestrials, no. That's the kind of boundary. There's a lot of harumphing that goes on. Well, we don't really want to be identified with this kind of science. It's okay to be identified with other bizarre views that might emanate, but we have our limits too.
Hiya.
Hey, what's it like out there?
What?
What's it like out there?
Oh, cold and wet.
Well, I want to say something to you here which is very important to me. You know, I say it and I say it and I say it, and it sometimes doesn't get regarded. But what basically changed me was my clinical experience. As a clinician, I couldn't account for this in any way with anything I had learned. And, you know, I was stuck with this dilemma. What do you do then? Somebody comes to you and they tell you that something's happened to them, and they tell it sincerely. They seem to be a healthy person otherwise, not given to delusion or make-believe or anything else. Their family says they've always been very solid and blah, blah, blah. What do you do at that point? Do you say, well, I'm sorry, there's got to be some kind of mental illness I never heard of before, because with no indications of that? Or do you say, well, it's like it's happening. Maybe what I thought was possible wasn't complete. It seems to me it's clinically and humanly more honest to say there's something I don't know here, and to follow your clinical instincts.
He says that he believed the stories, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially he says that he believed the stories if they were offered with what appeared to be a great deal of sincerity, if the experiencer felt them to be true. And that assumes that people are never delusional. That assumes that people never lie convincingly. That assumes that people aren't mistaken in the way they remember or interpret their own experiences. There are a lot of assumptions built into that.
My point of view is that there must be something truthful about this. To say it's not true increasingly weakens the value of human testimony. Given that so much of history relies on personal testimony, Christianity is then put into question, because it too is based on personal testimony. Otherwise, it would be a stupid faith.
Stupida.
I feel like I'm walking around in life with a dual identity. That I have a very human consciousness, normal and earth-based, running around inside of my body just like everybody else. It's just another part of my consciousness that, you know, feels like it was one of these beings beforehand. And in fact, that is my understanding of why these experiences are happening to me now.
I think the dual identity that is often talked about is the one that, you know, this is my identity here. You know, this is who I am. I have this practice, I'm married, you know, I live in such and such a town. But then the other identity is that I've been with these beings almost since childhood, or as early as I can remember. And that there's a part of me that feels like at some point I'm going to be reunited with them or go home. And so the dual identity is that, you know, it's kind of like dual citizenship.
I could still feel myself wanting to go in and try to get an answer. Wait a minute, has he really done enough therapy? Let me just think about how much therapy he's done.
You ought to be willing to at least entertain the hypothesis that it's all within the heads of the people who claim that they've been abducted.
They've been probably better studied now than almost any population that I know in terms of psychological testing, and there's not a shred of evidence that there's anything about them that is particularly pathological that would shed the slightest light on what they've been through.
Well, maybe there really was some sexual abuse, so maybe I better think about that some more.
Somebody did a survey of the population as a whole, and something like 25 to 30% of the population has been sexually abused, had a rough childhood, probably higher than 25 or 30%. Alcoholism, broken families. And we have many cases like that. We also have many cases of intact, loving families where there is not that kind of history. It hardly makes sense that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people all over the United States and all over the world are making up the same complex narrative to account for the most a huge variety of different sorts of disturbed childhoods. The New York Times decided this was sleep paralysis. They don't bother to fact check. They don't bother to check whether this holds up scientifically. At last we can explain this in a conventional way. The fact that people aren't asleep when it happens, that they overlook.
It seems to me the most obvious and elementary thing that any rational person would want to do is to try to verify that objectively by seeing, were there any witnesses?
It was, I think, in February of 1992. I was in New York, and I was traveling with 3 women coming back to Boston. It was a Saturday night. We decided to stay over outside of New Haven, Connecticut. Sunday morning, we got up. 3 women I was with decided to go for a walk, and I wasn't feeling good, so I decided to stay in the house. I found myself nodding out in the chair. Next thing I know, I wake up, I look at my watch. It's exactly like an hour and 5 minutes later, and the 3 women come rushing into the house and say, "Oh my God, Peter, oh my God, did you see the UFO? We just saw a UFO over the house. You know, let's call the police, let's report this right away." And I had no idea what to think or what to expect. I mean, I was totally freaked out because these women, these 3 people I was traveling with, had no idea about my work with John, had no idea of my memories, had no idea what I was going through. I had never talked about it. They came in and said they just saw a UFO. They were all freaked out. They had never seen a UFO. To this day, I've never seen a UFO. A few days later, all these memories and feelings came up of actually having, you know, a being coming into that room and taking me out and going up into the ship while the 3 women were on this walk while there's nobody in the house.
I'm curious why anybody, I mean you or anybody else, would want to somehow find a kind of Western conventional explanation for this anyway. I mean, there isn't a culture on the planet that doesn't take it as perfectly routine that there are visitations coming from outside of us, beings of all kinds, energies of all kinds.
People have always and everywhere believed that there is a parallel world to ours, which is inhabited by what the Greeks call daimones, daimons. In Europe, traditionally, the parallel world was a world of fairies, or elves, as the Anglo-Saxons call them. I see no reason to suppose that, you know, the aliens aren't connected with just traditional daemons, who everyone's always believed in. And it seems to me that, you know, our culture, modern Western culture, is eccentric in not believing this. The thing about daemons is that people always believe in them as real. And you can't say they're not literally real, and you can't say they're only metaphorically real. They're kind of both, because they belong to a worldview which doesn't make that distinction.
The aliens, like us, must be made of 2 things: spirit and matter, which is soul and body.
Ma saranno superiori a noi nel senso
But aliens must be superior to us because their soul is not as attached to the body.
Un po' meno di quello che non siamo legati noi al corpo. Fino addirittura.
Furthermore, where is it written that only one planet is inhabitable? For heaven's sake.
I wanted to see for myself if this happens in other cultures, and if so, how they interpret it. We decided to go to Brazil, but in truth, we could have gone just about anywhere.
This phenomenon is happening all over the world. The Brazilian worldview, I think, is different from the American because maybe we see things more emotionally or more from our hearts. Brazil is more open to other realities like spirits and the paranormal phenomena, but the alien phenomena, when it started in Brazil, was difficult to believe in it or even to accept it. I met John Mack at the Abductions study conference held at the MIT, and for me it was very important to see a psychiatrist from the United States who researching abduction with a different country from me and a different culture arrived to the similar conclusion.
Why me choose somebody else? I don't need this. You know, I have a family, I have a job, I have a normal life. I don't need to do this. You know, why? It happened when I was 10 years old. When I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw this blue light, and it came out to me and entered inside my head. And when to see what it was, I saw that big spaceship. And then I didn't see anything more. That was it. I don't remember what happened next. About 3 years ago, I had this vision. He came, and I could only see his face. He was all light. That was the only time that I saw him, actually. He told me that he would need my help to come to this planet. He would need my body to stay here. He's Ishtar. He's from another planet. Today he's in a mission, come over here. And I guess a lot of them come. They use these humans to get to know what is happening on this planet. I think he wants to take my life. I really don't care because he's much more powerful than I am.
When I started research in 1980, I had this great question. I don't know if those people are crazy or if those people are real, have an experience. After dealing with the process all the time, the only thing I can say, we don't know what make it happen, but it's happening, and those people can become crazy from the experience, but they are not creating the experience because they are crazy. This is very clear to me now.
My mother told me when I was 4 or 5 years old, I used to get out of my bed and go out to the backyard to watch the stars. She would come outside and say, "Boy, what are you doing up?" And I always used to say, "I don't like here. I want to go back to the place I came from."
Eu quero voltar para onde eu vim. 3 meses atrás, 4 mais ou menos.
About 3 or 4 months ago, I had a problem in my right ear. And as a musician, an ear problem is the worst thing that could happen to me. Every kind of sound or voice on the right ear sounded to me like a metallic sound. I went to an ear doctor who checked my ear and told me everything was fine. That night, near dawn, when I tried to get up, I couldn't move. That was a familiar sensation to me, and I said to myself, there's something weird going on. I immediately felt a presence in the bedroom. My wife next to me was sleeping. I tried to call to her to wake her up, and I couldn't even move a finger. With a lot of effort, I was able to open my eyes and I could see two small beings, one standing at the foot of my bed and the other by my left side, and a bigger one that I couldn't see, I only saw its shadow. I felt them put a pointed object in my right nostril, reach all the way to my skull, and something was done there. They took that pointed object out of my nose, and I saw the two little beings quickly leave. The bigger one said, "Be calm," and vanished. I started moving my fingers and tasted something like oil in my mouth. I haven't had any problems with that ear since. So it is really a fantastic phenomenon, which is not totally explained. I don't believe anymore that these beings are necessarily extraterrestrial, aliens from another planet, who visit us like in science fiction. I think they may be something else, maybe spiritual beings from another dimension.
We don't know really what they are. We don't know even in what reality this is happening. Even if this is just a projection in the mind, we don't know, but follow the same pattern.
I think the most characteristic element is the perception of light. And the light seems to have a certain power in it.
And as I was going down to sleep, I thought, there's a blue light coming through.
I woke up, the light.
I wonder what that is. And I just went to sleep.
The light was very bright, very blue, very, very blue.
White light hits me in the forehead, and I find myself like paralyzed.
The light seems to contain within itself some kind of special energy that can move
The light comes and over the person.
Often they really do feel that their physical body is taken.
They feel they're being taken by the light.
They're not in the room anymore, and they are floated, is the word they usually use.
I have memories of feeling myself very clearly, being floated out of the living room.
And then I felt myself being lifted up and out and watched myself go through the French doors and through
onto the deck of our house.
They get taken up into some kind of an craft.
And kind of being lifted up into the ship.
Up into the bottom of the ship that wasn't very far away in this peach, sort of orangish ready light.
In a classic kind of, in a beam of light.
Sometimes there'll be humans working alongside the aliens, or the typical humanoid grays.
They go up to about the middle of my chest, so I'd say that's about 4.5 feet.
It had this gray head and
their grayish skin and color.
Pointy chin and these large liquid black
heads,
eyes.
Kind of pear-shaped heads with large eyes, almond-shaped eyes.
No nose that I could really tell, no lips, just sort of a slit from mouth.
Kind of snake skinny, kind of like that very smooth or shark skin or kind of fish skin.
Like beings, reptilian beings, insect-like beings, praying mantis-like beings, and then procedures occur, which involve examinations, poking.
I was on a table in the ship, and they shoved this needle into my belly, and I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna die from this pain.
Distinct 2 puncture marks. It wasn't red and raised like a normal spider bite would be, and as I recall, it healed very quickly. It healed unusually.
I woke up the next morning from this really nasty experience of the reptilians with the puncture gun, and I had 3 puncture marks in my belly left over that healed in this really strange way, very quickly, like with 3 little sunburn marks on them.
One night, I come home and I walk in, and Peter's sitting in the living room. There's this bottle of whiskey next to him. Now, Peter doesn't drink. A glass of wine or something, but this bottle of whiskey or bourbon or something like that. There's this ashtray full of cigarette butts. And he doesn't smoke either. And the whiskey bottle is half filled. And he was just in a daze. And I just walked in and I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? What's going on? And he was just like, I can't handle it. This is way too much. What I'm going through is just over the top, I remember wanting to share it with him about my life, and he was like, Jamie, I can't be there for you. I can't. I'm like going through too much myself. And that happens in relationships. Of course it does. But usually there are things that somebody can name, or there's something that you can say, this is why he is going through that. But what am I supposed to say? People. Well, my husband thinks he's been abducted by aliens. He's had 9 regressions with a psychiatrist from Harvard University, and he's not available. He's not even in his body anymore, and we don't even talk to each other.
But let's get into it. What is this learning that you're there for about the future? Or anything?
It has to do with the one on my left, the woman. It's like she's going to be my teacher. Mm-hmm. She's going to be my guardian or something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She's going to watch for me. There's something that's going to transpire. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. What'd you get?
That we're going to fuck.
What?
That we're going to fuck.
You and this woman?
Yeah.
Right then and there?
No, I mean, that's what just...
Uh-huh. Is there a desire that came up for you then, or is it just a thought?
No, it wasn't a desire, it was a fear.
A fear that you're going to fuck with her?
God.
Okay.
Everything just sank. It's like, I'm going to breed with her.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Okay. And what's so shocking about that?
John, what's so shocking about... It's not every day I wake up and have somebody tell me I'm breeding with aliens, you know?
Well,
I mean,
I want to know...
Shocking. It's shocking because I wasn't aware of it before, that I had no idea that that's what was going on.
Yeah?
And,
okay.
A year ago I figured out, or whatever, I found out that my sperm was being taken,
right.
But now to walk into a room and to actually see, like, the woman I've been... I can't tell if I have been or if I'm supposed to make love to her.
Well, why would you need to make love to her if they've taken your sperm? Why couldn't they do it some other way? The sperm...
It's about contact. It's about connection.
Okay, but they could have taken your sperm and used that for hybrid baby making without necessarily any connection between you and the alien. So the fact that the future holds connection between you and this female being is separate, is additional information, is it not, than simply taking the sperm? Is that correct?
Yeah. John, this is going to sound bizarre.
That's all right.
It feels like... Oh man, I don't know if I can take this. It feels like she's my real wife.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It feels like she's the person that I'm really connected to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like... Mm-hmm. I want to say on a soul level.
Mm-hmm.
I was pissed. I was really pissed. Because I didn't believe it, first of all. It felt too, and here I am studying psychology, it felt too like there was some more psychological issue that was at hand. So that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So it's not like there was some woman he was with. This was like some experience on another plane of existence that he had a relationship with someone. And what do you do with that? What do you do with it?
I'm trying to say that I've had this experience that the only language I have for it, the vocabulary that I have to explain it, is this deep, deep, heartfelt connection with this being that is on this other plane that is alien.
If being with the alien female is your soulmate, or if there's some longing to be connected to something that's not here, then don't be with me, because I want to be with someone who wants to be with me and connect with me in this plane, because the alien plane isn't existing in my life. So then, well, what am I, just an actor, a stand-in until you die?
a couple of years into my experience when I was sitting in a room somewhere. I don't know if it was a ship, I don't know if it was another place in another point in time. It was very quiet, the lighting was very dim, and an elder being brought in. It was either 3 or 4 of these little beings, and they looked very sort of bluish in color. And they walked over to me and stood in front of me. They couldn't have been much bigger than this. They were quite young still. And I remember one being here and touching the seat that I was on, and another one was touching my legs, and another one touching my legs, and another one over here. And I looked to the being who had brought them in with this question on my face, and the being communicated that they were mine. It's sad to be separated from them. And yet there's nothing I can do. I'm just here. I'm not in control of it at this point in time. All I can do is continue to seek to understand it. If I could go visit them, I would. I've had about 1.5 years, 2 years of quiet now. There's no way that it seems that I can initiate contact or make it return. I'm just sort of left here.
On one hand, I'm really grateful that I don't have these experiences anymore. On another hand, there's a part of me that misses the connection. I wait and wonder. I wonder and wait and wonder. And I wonder what the universe, what the divine, what the aliens were doing. Like, was I just a sperm sample, you know, when I was in my 20s? Or, you know, is there something much larger here? And what's the purpose of it? I find it hard to believe that it's just about...
Well, I think it was just about you and me. No.
Well, on one level it is. On one level it is about our relationship, right?
I know, and it's just...
I know you're trying to dismiss it.
No, I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm not.
What are you trying to do?
I wasn't trying to do it. I was trying to be funny.
Yeah. One more thing we've gone through together, huh?
Mm. It is the one more thing we've gone through together. And I just really... I don't know. Just one more thing we've gone through together. I think that's what I wanted all along. I just wanted to be together in it, but I didn't really know how.
Now, you've been the witness for 6 years in this thing. And now finally, it's like...
It's more than 6 years, honey.
Yeah.
It's like 10.
Yeah. What's this been like for you,
Yeah.
When I came to Dr. Mack's defense, I got a number of phone calls saying, Alan, stay out of this one. Dr. Mack is crazy. He's insane. He's nuts. Some people said, no, he wasn't crazy. He was opportunistic.
If it was an opportunity, it was an opportunity to commit professional suicide. My real reason for writing this book is to try to move the conversation out of the argument about whether UFOs, abductions are real or not. That is very boring to me at this point.
I would like to think the best of John, I would like to think that he truly believes that there's something important going on. But his problem is that his thinking on the subject is totally blinkered. He's so biased and so set in his ways that he cannot do what people of his intelligence ordinarily do, and that is raise the question, could I be wrong? Are there other possible explanations, and how would I find out? And I think he's only human. He's undoubtedly influenced by the fact that he has a following. It's a cult.
No, I don't believe that I could hold that these beings exist in a purely literal, physical, material way. Do I believe they exist in some sense? Yes. Do I believe they're real? Yes. But I would always have to qualify for a Western-trained person what I mean by real. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. This is an outreach program from the cosmos to the consciously impaired. There seems to be some effort to get through to us. Difficult. God is dead. You know, Nietzsche said so, blah, blah, blah. So it's not easy to get through. But it does seem as if there is a creative intelligence at work here trying to create some kind of a connection, reach us in some way.
Don't know why we're here. And I've come out here because I felt like if I didn't come out here, you know, I couldn't get on with my life. I couldn't commit to a job, I couldn't commit to education, I couldn't commit to a relationship until I got this out of my system. 2 years ago, I went out and bought a Scottish map and thought, okay, I'm going, and it's just never been the right timing. I haven't made it until now. It's that I have this pull here. There's something inside of me that knows that it's Scotland. Like, I feel that this little boy who had the bubblegum machine is of Scottish origin. My feeling is that we've met off and on throughout our lives. There's just this somebody I'm waiting to be with. I'd like to think that somewhere there's this grown man now, hopefully in Scotland, or thinking maybe in Scotland. I think he has a Scottish accent, who has sitting on his mantle somewhere, you know, this bubblegum machine that he acquired in a strange way when he was playing in a field when he was a kid. Let's say this person is here. The point is that even if I'm with this someone, that still doesn't solve my dilemma of what am I supposed to do here now? If I go down this path, meaning if I stay here in Scotland, then my life could unfold this way. But if I make a decision in this moment to go back to America, will it be that I never come back here again? That I never live out this reality? And is it really my choice? You know, is there a thing as destiny or is there not? These are the same questions that everybody asks at different moments in their life. And somehow it just seems made a little bit more complicated or a little bit more messy because somehow I'm always asking this larger question, like, what do the aliens have to do with all this? You know, what does this experience have to do with all of this? It's kind of hard to know that where the experience ends and I begin, you know?
Something interacted with me, not once, not twice, but repeatedly for a good period of my life and a good chunk of when I was doing the regressions that I can't deny. And if it was aliens or not, or fairies or the tooth fairy or, you know, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, in my mind, I think it's extraterrestrial, but I'm really open to whatever it might be. But something happened, you know. And I've yet to have somebody come up with an explanation that I could say, yeah, that fits for me. You know, it's not my childhood. I know that much.
Wouldn't this be an
example of our desire to find solace or meaning outside of ourselves? That's the question.
Is there anything else?
No, that's it.
I mean, are we trying to do anything else? I mean, is the human adventure anything but that? Does it? Well, what that to find meaning in the cosmos for ourselves as conscious beings? I know there are lesser things like pleasures and whatnot, but basically that's what we're here for, isn't it?
calling you from London. Hope you're sitting down. Got a story. I got that email that you forwarded to me from the guy who wrote you an email on your website, and he and I have spoken recently, and I have to tell you, I think he's the kid I handed the bubblegum machine to. There are just too many details that he knows about the experience that unless he had been there as a boy, there's no way that he could have known it. Also, he's the right age, and check this out, he's from Scotland.